All right, here's the fast path to a strong comparison essay. First, what a comparison essay is and how to pick a smart topic. Next, a quick 3-minute brainstorm, then and chart to pull out your best points. Then two simple structures, block versus point by point with a plug and play outline for your hook, thesis, and topic sentences. Finally, cleaner sentences using transitions and comparatives, plus a quick polished checklist. Stick with me and you'll plan, write, and edit with confidence. Next, we're going over understanding comparison essays, choosing topics, and identifying essay types. What is a comparison essay? Well, a comparison essay is a common type of writing assignment in school. In this kind of essay, you look at how two subjects are alike and how they are different. So even though it is called a comparison essay, you can choose to write only about the similarities, which is a comparison, write only about the differences, which are a contrast, or include both similarities and differences in the essay. Coming up, I'll show you how to come up with strong comparison topics. Please spot different essay types. For choosing subjects to compare, for writing a strong comparison essay, you want to choose two subjects that connect in some way, but also give you enough to discuss. So sometimes the topics look very different at first, but the essay shows surprising similarities, and that's what you want to do. Other times they seem almost the same, but the essay points out hidden differences. Comparison essays help readers see topics in a new light. So here are some examples of good topics for you to use for a comparison essay. They're playing a sport on a school team versus playing for fun with friends, reading a printed book versus listening to an audiobook, public high school versus private high school, and riding a bike to school versus taking the bus. Now that you have a clear idea of what a comparison essay is, let's move on to how to choose the right topic. The first step is to carefully read the prompt or question for your essay and understand exactly what type of essay you are being asked to write. Next, take some time to brainstorm everything you know about the topic before planning your outline. We'll walk through how to brainstorm and outline a comparison essay in the next section. Sometimes your teacher will give you the topics, but other times you'll need to choose them on your own. Don't worry, I'll guide you how to make some smart topic choices right now. So let's practice together. For choosing appropriate comparison topics, when you get a list of essay topics, you'll need to figure out which ones are comparison. Here are some examples. Online learning and classroom learning. You can compare these. There are two different types of learning. Should school uniforms be required? That's more of an opinion type of essay. Then there's the effects of too much screen time on teenagers. That's a cause effect. Then there's how to bake chocolate chip cookies. That's more of a process, how to complete a process. City life and country life. That's a comparison essay. And why recycling should be mandatory in schools. That's more of an opinion. Still ahead, I'll show you how keywords can reveal your essay type and make planning easier. For understanding essay types, comparison essays look at similarities, differences, or both. Opinion essays, they ask you to take a side and defend it. Cause and effect essays, this is where you show why something happens or what result it creates. Words like effects, results, or consequences are clues for this. And then there is the process essay, which explains how to do something. The word how is usually a signal. So it is important to know the essay type so you can use the right structure and include the right kind of information. I encourage you for practice and next steps. Now you know how to tell essay types apart. For practice, try writing one of these comparison topics, either online learning versus classroom learning or city life versus country life. Next, I'll show you how to take what you've learned into creating your own plan for writing your own comparison essay. Knowing the essay type makes writing easier, whether the teacher tells you directly or not. This is especially important during tests, when you don't have time to ask what kind of essay you are writing when you are given a prompt or a question to respond to. Now that you understand comparison essays, how to choose strong topics, you're ready to move on. In the next video, we'll focus on brainstorming, planning, and outlining your essay step by step. Please subscribe and turn on notifications for more essay writing tips. Watch the next video for more lessons. I'll see you there. Right, today we're going to learn how to brainstorm an outline for a comparison essay. First, we'll look at why brainstorming matters and how it helps you organize your thoughts before you even start writing. Then we'll cover 3 classic brainstorming methods: mind maps, comparison chart, and Venn diagrams. And I'll walk you through each one using the example of online classes versus classroom learning. After that, we'll explore some other types of brainstorming methods, like free writing, making lists, and asking simple who, what, when, why, how questions to find your best points. So see how each method helps you with similarities and differences so your essay is easier to write. Finally, I'll connect brainstorming to the next step, learning the two main ways to structure a comparison essay, the block method and the point-by-point method, and how to outline them effectively. Let's talk about why brainstorming matters. Brainstorming should be the first thing that you do after you have selected your topic. And that is because you want to display everything you think, understand about the topic, and to really have a visual framework of how it will generally be structured. It helps you to organize your thoughts, see connections, and choose the strongest points for your essay. First, we're going to discuss why brainstorming matters. Brainstorming is the future topic, and it's important to do it because you need to really have all your ideas, everything you think, understand, know about the topic in structure, including questions sometimes to help you in other areas like research. And what you want to do is expand outwards and take some time to do that. Brainstorming is the first thing to do after you choose your topic. It helps you to organize your thoughts, see connections, and choose the strongest parts for your essay. Coming up, we'll walk through some key brainstorming tools, mind maps, charts, and Venn diagrams. I'll show you exactly how each one works using an example so you can see the process in action. So there are 3 traditional brainstorming methods. Before you write a comparison essay, it is important to brainstorm before you begin. Brainstorming helps you organize your ideas, notice connections between them, and decide which points are the strongest. I'm going to talk about the 3 important ways to brainstorm now, and we'll look at some examples of each. We have mind map, comparison chart, and Venn diagram. So the 3 traditional brainstorming methods are, first of all, for the mind map, what you want to do is write your topic in the center. For example, you could write in the center of the page or center of the image on your screen. You could write down online classes versus classroom learning, and then all your ideas, thoughts and ideas and knowledge you have about that. Branch out for each of the subjects. And you could add smaller branches and specific points. So you just write your topic in the center, those are subjects, and you draw branches outward for each, connecting outwards all of the related ideas, thoughts, and information you know. And you add smaller points out of those branches for more specific points that you want to include and that you know and understand. So mind map, there's an image here on the right to show you an example of what a mind map looks like. And you could put in their online classes, you could put in classroom learning. If you were to put online classes, you'd have a branch out from there saying flexible schedule, and then you'd have one saying tech use and another saying independent learning. And likewise, if you had classroom learning written down, you could branch out and put face-to-face help, and you could add another branch from there for group work and another branch from there for structured routine. And for the second type of brainstorming method we're going to talk about, there's the comparison chart. So this is where you make 2 columns and one for each subject, and you list the features side by side to compare them directly. Let me just show you an example of that over here. So we have online classes on the left, and then classroom learning on the right. And so we have all of the details about the online classes below the online classes. So for example, for online classes, we have flexible schedule, requires self-motivation, tech-focused, and no travel time. And likewise, for the classroom learning column, we have the fixed daily schedule, teachers keep students on track, more face-to-face interaction, and commuting to school. So we would have them side by side in columns like this. And it's important because what you're doing then is you're drawing that table, the table of the 2 columns with the 2 headers on top, and you're writing down the traits, the qualities, or the features for each in there. And the other type of brainstorming method is the Venn diagram. And this is where you draw 2 overlapping circles like this, and you on the left would put the unique traits of the first subject, and on the right, the unique traits of the second subject. And in the center, anything overlapping is what they have their similarities. So we have online classes on the left and classroom learning on the right. All of the facts and details about online classes that we want to include, that we know about, are study at home, flexible schedule, including you could put like any questions you might have for research. And then the classroom learning, you would put structured routine, in-person discussions, and in the center, what the online classes and classroom learning have in common. So provide teachers assignments, learning outcomes. So there's all the details and they're mapped out in that structure. So just keep in mind that you draw the 2 circles, and on the left, unique subject A, on the right, unique traits and characteristics of subject B, and in the middle, similarities. And then you draw it like that with your thoughts and ideas and information. And still ahead, we'll explore even more brainstorming tips, like free writing lists and guiding questions. These quick methods will give you plenty of ideas to build your essay. And there are some other brainstorming strategies. In addition to the other three, we also have free writing, where you just set a timer for 5 minutes and write down freely all your thoughts, points, ideas, knowledge. And then there's listing, so you put bullet points from a list top down. And there's also questioning, where you write down some questions and answers, like for who, what, when, where, why, and how to uncover details from that subject, those subjects or that subject. By brainstorming first, you'll never sit down to write without knowing what to write about or what to say or what to discuss in your writing. You'll have instead a clear set of ideas and to work with when you are writing. Now you've seen why brainstorming is actually essential and how different methods can help. In the next video, we'll take your mind map or your brainstorm, and what we'll do is we'll outline it step by step into the correct structure for the comparison essay and structures. Subscribe and turn on notifications so you don't miss more essay writing lessons. Check out the next related video for more lessons, and I'll see you there. Today we're learning about comparison essays and how to organize them. First, we'll look at the two main methods, the block method and the point-by-point method, and why the structure you choose matters. Then we'll walk you through outlines using the topic middle school versus high school, so you can see exactly how both methods work. Next, we'll talk about how to decide which method fits best, depending on your essay topic. After that, we'll practice with hooks, thesis statements, and topic sentences, so you can start your essay strong and keep each paragraph focused. We'll also learn how to use transitions and supporting details to make your writing flow smoothly. Finally, I'll give you some practice assignments that takes you step by step from brainstorming your ideas to revising your first draft. Let's jump into a lesson about comparison essays, how to outline block method and point-by-point method. So for organizing a comparison essay, you want to keep in mind that there are two main ways to structure a comparison essay. There's the block method and the point-by-point method. So with the block method, you're making sure that you are writing about all the points first for one subject in body paragraph 1, and all the points you want to make about the second subject in body paragraph 2. But in the point-by-point method, it is where you talk about both subjects side by side within each body paragraph, but each body paragraph is focused on each point. The main thing you want to keep in mind when it comes to the points of comparison are that you want to focus on the 3 points of comparison. So you got the two subjects always, and then you have 3 points of comparison, 3 ways that you are categorizing the comparisons. So for example, for a topic about middle school versus high school, we could talk about homework load as point 1, extracurricular activities as point 2, and teacher expectations about point of comparison 3. So when it comes to the block method example, for an example outline, you want to keep in mind the introduction is always going to be consistent here with the comparison essay type. For the introduction paragraph, you have, first of all, the hook, then you have connecting information and the thesis statement. And in that thesis statement, you want to mention the 2 subjects that you're comparing, and then the 3 points that you are comparing them based on. So for example, your thesis statement might be, though middle school and high school are very different experiences, important similarities exist in homework load, extracurricular activities, and teacher expectations. So now in that way, you have mentioned that there are similarities. But if you're going to write an essay where you're discussing the differences as the focus, you want to mention that in your thesis statement by writing something like, while middle school and high school share the same goal of educating students, they differ greatly in homework load, extracurricular opportunities, and teacher expectations. And then you move forward with your body paragraphs. So for the block method example, think of it as 2 blocks, 2 body paragraphs. So body paragraph 1 would then, for example, focus on middle school, because in the thesis statement, you mentioned middle school first. And then it's going to discuss within body paragraph 1, the 3 points of comparison. So for example, you'll have, because you mentioned them in these order, the 3 points of comparison in the thesis statement, you're going to want to go ahead and write, for example, point comparison 1, homework load, point comparison 2, extracurricular activities, point comparison 3, teacher expectations. So you're writing about these 3 points of comparison in this body paragraph focused on middle school, and then you move forward in body paragraph 2 in a similar manner, whereby you are talking about the second subject. So here you would be discussing high school, and then you're mentioning the 3 points of comparison, again in the same order: homework load, extracurricular activities, and teacher expectations. Okay, now when it comes to the point-by-point method example, it's The introduction is the same type of introduction you could write for a point-by-point method example as the block method example. So they're both introductions are the same way. And so in this case, though, you're focused on the 3 points of comparison as the focus for each body paragraph. So for example, body paragraph 1 is about homework load for the two subjects, middle school and high school. Body paragraph 2 is about the second point of comparison, extracurricular activities, focused on both middle school and high school. And then same with body paragraph 3, we go then to point of comparison 3, which would be teacher expectations, and then focus on middle school and high school in this type of example for the point-by-point method example. Still ahead, we'll practice building the other parts of an essay, such as how to write hooks, thesis statements, and topic sentences, or which types to choose from as examples that you could structure your hooks, thesis statements, and topic sentences from. You'll then see some examples and test which ones work best, so you'll know exactly how to start and build your essay. So for practicing hooks, thesis statements, and topic sentences, you want to keep in mind that strong essays start with a clear hook, connecting information and a thesis statement for both type of introductions for the block method and point-by-point method. And what we're going to do is we're going to look at some examples of each and practice choosing the best ones. And then we're going to move on into topic sentences that guide your paragraphs and connect back to. And so let's start with choosing a hook. So you are going to read this introductory paragraph with me, and we're going to decide which hook is the most effective. And we're going to write our answer down on the line provided or in your notebook and be ready to explain your choice. So for this one, middle school versus high school, this introductory paragraph, a student's perspective. So this is the title, middle school versus high school, a student's perspective. And we want to choose the right hook that would go here before the remaining aspects of the introduction paragraph. So let's read. High school is often described as a major step up from middle school, but in reality, middle school gives students valuable practice for the challenges ahead. Both stages of school offer unique experiences, but they also share some surprising similarities. Though middle school and high school are different, important connections exist in homework load, extracurricular activities, and teacher expectations. So we want to choose A, B, or C. What would be a more appropriate, a best decision for the hook that we would choose? A, have you ever wondered what makes middle school and high school so different, yet so alike at the same time? Or B, middle school and high school both prepare students for the real world. Or C, students often talk about how high school feels like a big jump compared to middle school. Which one would you choose? Take some time to read. You can pause this video and take some time to read this paragraph, this introduction paragraph, and decide the best hook. Okay, so let's get going on over here to A is the most effective hook. Why? Well, it uses a brief, engaging question that matches the paragraph's purpose. This is a great way to do it. Comparing differences and similarities between middle school and high school, and naturally leads into the thesis about important connections. So remember, B though, it was too broad and generic. It sounds like a claim about purpose, not a lead-in to compare contrast specifics. So you can jump back to B and see that. And then in C, the reason why it doesn't work is because it focuses only on the difference, the big jump, and it doesn't set up the similarities and thesis promise. It doesn't set it up. It doesn't get us ready for it. It only focuses on just the difference, and that wouldn't work in some cases with thesis statements. So we don't want to do that, okay? Because the rhetorical question previews both similarities and differences, which aligns with the thesis about connections in homework, activities, and expectations. All right. So now let's focus on the idea of choosing a thesis. What would be the best thesis example? So we're going to read the introduction below, and then we're going to choose the sentence that best expresses the thesis statement of the essay, and we're going to write our choice on the line provided. So we have middle school versus high school students' perspective, same title, but in this case, we're looking at this introduction and choosing A, B, or C as the thesis statement for this introduction. So the introduction says, have you ever wondered what makes middle school and high school so different, yet so alike at the same time? Students often talk about how high school feels like a big jump, but middle school prepares you for it in more ways than you realize. Both school levels bring unique challenges and experiences, but they also share some surprising similarities. Though middle school and high school are very different experiences, important similarities exist in homework load, extracurricular activities, and teacher expectations. So would the option A have, well, you can see that there are options A and B here, and these ones didn't work, and you can tell that they already have a thesis statement there because they mentioned the 3 points of comparison: homework load, extracurricular activities, and teacher expectations in this introduction paragraph in the last sentence in thesis. And they mentioned both middle school and high school for the structure of this thesis statement. So we would choose C. Have the other options that we could have, people may have written and where they would have not been correct would be A. Have you ever wondered what makes middle school and high school so different yet so alike at the same time? And B, both school levels bring unique challenges and experiences, but they also share some surprising similarities. Well, D is correct because it clearly states the essay's main claim, and it previews the 3 points: homework load, extracurricular, and teacher expectations in it. A is a hook, so it's a question, it's not a claim, and B is too general. There's no specific roadmap. All right, so then let's focus on identifying the topic sentence. So we're going to read the body paragraph below, and then we will underline and write down the topic sentence that introduces the main idea of the paragraph. So the same title for the same essay. For the body paragraph 1, we have already the topic sentence written here as the first sentence in this body paragraph 1. And this is a good example. And it is: in middle school, homework starts to become a bigger part of a student's life compared to elementary school. And then the remaining aspects of body paragraph are: students are often expected to complete assignments in different subjects, such as math worksheets, reading journals, or science projects. Homework may not take up the entire evening, but it can feel overwhelming, especially during test weeks. And in high school, homework becomes even more demanding. Students may have essays to write, group projects to finish, and more advanced math problems to solve. While the topics are harder, both middle and high school require students to manage their time wisely and keep track of assignments. This shows that homework is an important part of learning at both levels, even though the amount and difficulty may change. So we can see in here that they have a topic sentence whereby it mentions that you're focused on middle school, and then you have discussed fully about the homework load and mentioning that it compares for the topic sentence before you go into all of the supporting details of that in the rest of the body paragraph. So that is a good topic sentence. In middle school, homework starts to become a bigger part of a student's life compared to elementary school, because it introduces the paragraph's main idea, homework load, and it sets up the progression that the rest of the paragraph develops from middle school into the increased demands of high school, and the later sentences and details, comparisons, including a concluding insight. So there's all the details, comparisons, and all the conclusions for that as the remaining aspects of that body. Don't go anywhere. We'll wrap up by learning how to improve transitions and supporting details. I'll show you how to make your essay flow smoothly from one idea to the next. So now let's look at our lesson about improving transitions. We're going to read the 2 body paragraphs below, and we're going to notice which transition works best. So for example, in this body paragraph here, the end of it, it says, while the topics are harder, both middle school and high school students require students to manage their time wisely and keep track of assignments. It's an important part of learning at both levels, even though the amount and difficulty may change. So in this case, because they have focused on the idea of what it's like in both schools for managing time wisely to help with homework, we could then focus on homework in the beginning of the transition sentence by writing, homework is a big part of the student's life, and then transitioning to something about, but learning doesn't only happen in the classroom, extracurricular activities. So that's mentioning the focus of the next point of comparison in the next body paragraph. So you write extracurricular activities for the next point of comparison coming up. Also shape the middle and high school experience. That would be a great transition sentence. And then supporting details in the essay that we took some excerpts from, middle school versus high school students' perspective. Each point of comparison will be explained with supporting details And the placement of those supporting sentences in the essay, it really does depend on the organizational method you're writing in. So for example, if it's the block method or if it's the point-by-point method. So now that we've learned these ways for these two different types of comparison essay methods, it's important to learn how to transition them and how to write those strong hooks, theses, topic sentences, transitions, and details. And for practice, I suggest that you choose a good comparison topic and that you practice with these strategies to write a comparison essay. So make sure you subscribe and turn on notifications so you don't miss more essay writing lessons. Pick out the playlist for the next video, and I'll see you there. All right, as we dive into comparison essays, the first thing we're going to look at is why structure is so important. And I'll show you the two basic ways to set up an essay. Then we'll check out some clear examples so you can see how the block method works and how the point-by-point method works. After that, we'll figure out how to choose the right method for your own comparison topic, so you always know what to do. We'll also practice writing thesis statements and topic sentences that make your ideas easy to follow. And finally, I'll share a quick checklist that many students forget, but it can take your essay from okay to awesome. So let's get started. And now we're going to talk about comparison essays, and we're going to go over some grammar and sentence structure for it. Let's first start with connectors and transitions. When you are connecting and transitioning in your comparison essay, you will sometimes compare between sentences, for example, using in addition, comma, or similarly, comma, or likewise, comma, at the start of your next sentence. So here are some examples of putting these into practice for the transitions. So, and the first example is middle school students often have several homework assignments each night. Similarly, high school students are expected to complete daily homework, but usually in greater amount. Another example is basketball teaches teamwork and strategy. Likewise, soccer helps players learn to work together to reach a common goal. And a third example is reading novels can strengthen vocabulary. In addition, writing essays helps students practice organizing their ideas clearly. So for connectors and transitions, sometimes we're comparing within a sentence as well. So when we are doing this, here are some examples of what kind of usage we would complete here. So we've got compare to plus noun, the same plus noun plus as plus adjective, adverb plus as, like plus noun, not only blank, but also blank, both blank and blank, or subject and verb, comma, and subject and verb, comma, too. So these are the formats for when you're comparing within a sentence for connecting and transitioning. So some examples are a tablet is light compared to a laptop. The math problem has the same answer as yesterday's problem. Is your backpack as heavy as mine? That story is like a mystery novel. She not only finishes her homework, but also studied for her quiz. Both basketball and volleyball are team sports. Alex plays the guitar and Maria plays the guitar too. So that's how we apply these patterns, sentence patterns, to have connectors and transitions here. Additionally, sometimes you have to do contrasting, especially for a comparison essay. So between sentences, some ways that you can do this is by going conversely, comma, however, comma, on one hand, comma, on the other hand, comma, in contrast, comma, or nevertheless, comma. So some examples of putting this into application are many students enjoy working on group projects. Conversely, some prefer to work alone. For reading can be relaxing. However, it can also be challenging if the book is difficult. Or on one hand, middle school students want more independence. On the other hand, they still need guidance from teachers and parents. And soccer requires teamwork. In contrast, running races usually depend on individual effort. And it was raining heavily. Nevertheless, the soccer game continued. And some examples of how to have connectors and transitions within a sentence are for these structures: although or whereas or while plus subject plus verb, or subject plus verb, comma, but subject plus verb, or unlike plus noun. So let's put this into practice. So here are some examples. Although the test was difficult, the students stayed calm and did their best. Or Sarah enjoys playing soccer, but her brother prefers basketball. Unlike most pets, turtles can live for many decades. And so for putting these into practice, try writing out these patterns here and try to fill in the blanks to practice using connectors and transitions. And pause this video to do that. Next up, adjectives. Think cold to colder to coldest, and good to better to best. I'll show you how they work, and you'll practice them fast. Let's go over some grammar. The comparative and superlative adjectives. So rule 1 is one-syllable adjectives. When an adjective has only one syllable, form the comparative by adding ER and the superlative by adding EST. For adjectives ending in Y with two syllables, change the Y for adding IE or EST. Here are some examples of that. Winter mornings can be cold, or January is colder than November. February is the coldest month of the year. Today is sunnier than yesterday. And rule 2 for irregular forms, some adjectives do not follow the usual pattern. For example, good to better to best or bad to worse to worse. And here are some examples of that. So running is better exercise than watching TV, but swimming might be the best activity for full body fitness. And for rule 3, for some longer adjectives here, for adjectives with 2 or more syllables, not ending in Y, use more before the adjective for the comparative and the most for the superlatives. And here are some examples of that. So this puzzle is more challenging than the one we solved yesterday, or that was the most exciting soccer game of the season. So for practice of comparative and superlative adjectives, or part A here, you want to fill in the blanks with the correct form of the adjective. So for example, for number 1, today would be what? If you were to put hot, then yesterday, what form? Well, number 1, the answer here is today is hotter than yesterday. So for number 2, what was the blank? Funny was the form of funny. Joke I've ever heard. The answer is that was the funniest joke I've ever heard. So funniest. 3, this backpack is blank. In what form would you write? Heavy than my old one. Number 3, this backpack is heavier than my old one. And 4, spring is usually blank, rainy. What form of rainy this summer? 4, spring is usually rainier than summer. And 5, she is the blank, what form of good, singer in the school choir. She is the best singer in the school choir. And 6, the math problem is blank, what form of difficult than the last one? The math problem is more difficult than the last one. So here is a challenge extension, a mini paragraph writing assignment for you to consider, to do for your own practice. Here are some instructions. So write a short paragraph, 4 to 6 sentences about one of the topics below. Use at least 3 comparative or superlative adjectives in writing. And be sure to underline the comparative or superlative forms. So here are some topic choices. Number 1, comparing 2 or more sports. 2, comparing 2 different seasons of the year. 3, comparing school subjects you take, or 4, comparing different types of pets. So try to write mini paragraphs to practice these extensions and how to write connectors and transitions within your writing. Here's an example of something that works. So if the topic was seasons of the year, we could write, winter is usually colder than fall, but summer is the hottest season of the year. Spring is often rainier than summer, which helps flowers bloom. Many students think summer is the best season because there is no school. However, fall can be the most colorful season with all the leaves changing. So here's some grammar, so some parallel structure. What we should talk about here is this explanation 1 is list of words. When you write a sentence with items in a list, make sure each item uses the same part of speech. So for example, if you start with nouns, keep the rest as nouns. If you start with adjectives, keep them all as adjectives. Here are some examples. The school library provides resources such as books, computers, and magazines, 3 nouns. Or the soccer game was fast, exciting, and intense, 3 adjectives. And another explanation, something else I want you to keep in mind, are lists of phrases and clauses. So parallel structure also applies when you write longer parts of a sentence, such as phrases or clauses. Each item should follow the same pattern. So here are some examples of that. The coach explained that players must arrive on time and that they must bring all equipment, 2 noun clauses. Or the city is popular with tourists because of its historic landmarks, lively festivals, and beautiful parks, 3 noun phrases. And to stay healthy, teenagers should eat balanced meals, exercise regularly, and get enough sleep, 3 verb phrases. Before we wrap up, we'll put it all together. Block and point-by-point method outlines. You'll see exactly how to set up your intro, body, and conclusion. Then run a fast final checklist to polish your draft. So comparison essay, block-by-block method outline. You always want to start with, first of all, knowing your topic, and then you want to have your introductory paragraph. You want to have a hook, connecting information, which also shares the background information. The thesis statement, which mentions 2 subjects and 3 points of comparison in that thesis statement. And then it will have 2 body paragraphs for the block method. So for body paragraph 1 in the topic sentence, you want to mention the first subject and then the 3 points of comparison and provide details about those 3 points of comparison. And then in body paragraph 2, you want to mention the second subject and the 3 points of comparison, and then the details for those 3 points of comparison. You want 68 sentences within these body paragraphs. And then you have your conclusion paragraph, where you restate the thesis statement in different wording, you summarize the body paragraph, and you provide a conclusion sentence. For the comparison essay outline for the point-by-point method essay outline, you want to have your introductory paragraph the same here, whereby you have the hook connecting information and thesis statement in the same manner, and the conclusion paragraph in the same manner. However, there are 3 body paragraphs if there are 3 points of comparison. So body paragraph 1 focuses on point of comparison 1 and mentions all the details about the point of comparison 1 for both subjects in that body paragraph 1. Likewise, for body paragraph 2, you now talk about point of comparison 2 as the focus, and you discuss both subjects for the point of comparison 2 in the body paragraph 2. And then in this case, for body paragraph 3, you're going to have the point of comparison 3 is your focus of this third body paragraph, and you're going to mention details on subject 1 and 2 for this body paragraph for this type of structure of point-by-point method comparison essay. And here is a checklist that can help you to review over your how to revise and edit your comparison essay or essays at this level before you hand something in to be marked or graded for feedback. Thanks for watching. Subscribe for more essay writing tips and see you in the next video.